special players doing really special things. So yeah, we love the fan sport. We want to continue to get more fans out there for sure. Big one this Thursday against Arizona. But yeah, all the recognition is great for them. To be honest, I don't pay attention to rankings, but as most coaches probably don't. But I think it's just a testament to how hard these kids have been working and put a good product out there. So excited.
Stay in the back with Jordan, backfoot.
Hey, Coach, Jordan Hanson with 360 AZ. Kenny Dillingham, Wally Miller have been very complimentary of your support of their programs, but also the way you've built this program. Just can you describe the dynamic between these other head coaches in the athletic department and how they support each other?
Yeah, it's been really fun since I walked in the door. I think the culture here with our head coaches is awesome. We have a head coaches thread, and coaches reach out all the time, bounce ideas off each other. I've gone to lots of practices, like watching other coaches, what they're doing in their spaces. But I remember the first day I got here, Sheila came down. Sheila and Graham were like the first two that I barely settled in my office, and they were coming by to say hi, anything you need. And I think that's just kind of the culture that permeates here, and it's really special because that's not what it's like everywhere. But I think it can be lonely being a head coach, and I think when you have a nice support group, it makes it really fun. Everyone's been great here.
Are there any ideas or processes that you've borrowed from some of these other coaches that have been particularly effective in volleyball?
Yeah, I think the most recent was probably I basically met Kenny at 6:30 in the morning in the spring, and I spent a whole day with football. And obviously they have such a huge roster, and they have a lot of coaches and resources there, but I thought I was pretty organized. I've always felt like it's been one of my strengths as a coach, and I walked out of there going, man, I'm not even in the zip code. Because they got everything just down. And I think anytime you go into another, like even if you don't know the sport that well, like I never played football, so the most I know of football is Madden football. And but I also think when you hear like strategically how they do things, it might make something click in your mind, like, oh, maybe we do need to attack more space, or I think one of the problems in sports, or not problems, but I think what happens in sports, like, oh, this is what we do and this is how we do it, and we're always trying. It's corny. ASU's innovation, but like, how do you innovate and do things differently? And I think when you watch other teams practice, there'll be just little snippets here or there when you see something and it might click in. Like Kenny was showing me some videos and stuff, which I won't reveal here, but it really got me thinking about a couple things offensively that I've tried to implement. And so I think anytime you go into other practices and you just look, how do they communicate with their team? How do they structure practices? Where are they doing the meet? Where are they doing the early stuff? And it just makes you rethink everything you're doing, because I think you always have to be. Everyone's always trying to, or I think most people are trying to get better. And if you just sit on this is what we do, you can't evolve and get better. The best companies in the world, my former life, are the ones that continuously innovate and try to improve, not just this is what we do and how we do it. And that's the worst thing you can do. So I think that's why it's so fun to be around there. And even, I did a thing last week with Kenny, and I was asking him a couple of things, and it just makes you think about stuff. So it's really fun.
Against the wall, Chris.
Chris Carpenter, Source. I wanted to ask you about the interviewing, hiring process at ASU. What do you remember about visiting with Graham and others, and what sort of maybe gave you confidence that this would be the place that it's turned into for the sport for you?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. One, they didn't want me because I had to beg to get into the process. I was definitely not at the top of their list, but I really wanted this job, and I'd spent 10 years in the Pac-12, and ASU is always a place, whenever you're thinking about, okay, where would I want to try to build a program? And I would say one of my values is kind of a builder. And every time I would come here, like even when they didn't have a lot of fans, it was kind of a rowdy crowd. DFA was uncomfortable playing, it's loud. I know it's older, so like the sound just, it's like louder than you would think with the fans. Tempe is awesome. Anyone who lives here knows that. It's basically a college town. Everything around here is ASU, so it's plastered everywhere. So you've got this really cool kind of school spirit space, but you're also in the 5th largest city in the country. So if you're bored here, like, it's kind of a you issue, I think. And so part of it was I really wanted this job. I always felt like this was a place that could be good. There's a lot of good volleyball here. It's a big city. I think fans are really important for building a program. And I'm like, it's the 5th largest city in the country. We've got a student body population of 80,000. We have to be able to get 5,000 people coming to matches easily. And if you do that, you're kind of at the top of the country. And so those went into, those are kind of the first part. But I'll tell you a story about Graham, which told me everything I needed to know about him. When I flew in, Graham didn't just pick me up on the sidewalk. He was waiting there for me. As I walked off the plane, came out, he's there. And like, people don't do that anymore. It's really rare. And to me, those are like the small little things. Like, I still remember that from 3 years ago. You know, in a whirlwind process, I just had shoulder surgery. So I'm in a suit with a sling, and I'm walking off, and I'm like, oh man, like he literally came here to greet me in person, walk me to the car. And those are like those little special things that are like attention to detail things, and I'm an attention to detail person. I don't think there's anything too small that you should be thinking about, and so that told me everything, you know. And then back then it was Ray hiring, but you know, you ask about resources, and hey, are you ready to, and Ray had said, like, we're ready to invest more in volleyball. And it's always, that's vital to surviving, you know, in this day and age especially.
So how did you sell yourself? What was that like?
I think I was authentically me. And, you know, there's good and bad that comes with me, but I definitely sold the experience. You know, I have a pretty strong analytical background. I have a lot of experience at various levels, including the national team level. So part of it is the recommendations people gave about me. But I think probably what also came through is like, I really wanted the job. I mean, there's a lot of people that didn't even want to interview for it, you know. And I had people tell me, oh no, that's not a good job. I'm like, no, I think you guys are wrong. I think it is a good job. And I used to work in the distressed debt world. One of the hedge funds I worked at, and it was like, you're buying basically, I'm not gonna say this was garbage assets because I didn't believe that, but you're buying kind of undervalued things with the idea that you can flip that and turn it in. And I always thought, like, so I have to imagine that some of that exuberance came through because I was so excited about this opportunity.
How did you actually get the interview though? Yeah, when you said they didn't want to hire you.
They had reached out to the assistant coach that on the staff that I was at. They reached out to other people, so I knew they were reaching out. I went to Joyce Bell, who's my S degree at the time. I asked her to put in a call for me and just say, I really want this job. Can you help me get an interview? And then there were a couple of headhunters that I'd known that were from search firms, and I'd reached out to them, like, who's the search firm? Can you just give me a call? And fortunately, I did get a call. And I know that the first call I had was with a search firm. And I think when she got off the phone, she realized I'm super organized. I have major attention to detail. I was really passionate about this opportunity. And I felt like I could marry kind of the analytics side and the relationship side to building a good culture, a good program. Because it was like an hour call later, and she's like, you're going to hear from Christina, you know, shortly. And then I had calls with Christina. I think the day before my surgery, I had a call with Christina, and then I came out and had another Zoom with everyone, I believe, and then I came for the in-person. So.
And I have another question. The recruiting talent acquisition part of this, like, what made ASU appealing in that respect, and what are some of the core philosophical things that you think have enabled you to get to where you're at now?
From a recruiting standpoint, again, when I would come here, I'm like, but I want to be a student here, you know, and like Tempe's a fun town. I mean, we go out, you know, for our dinners or whatever, and everywhere you went, you know, there's students, it's lively, there's students, it's got a good vibe, and so I thought, man, this is a cool place. I thought President Crow had done a really, like I came from a hedge fund world, which is like very, you know, snooty or hoity-toity about education. And when I grew up, ASU was like, no offense, but it was like not, like it was where like the partiers, some of my schools went. But he had really flipped that, you know, and we don't have to fight that as much in recruiting anymore. You still have it because there's people my age and, you know, they're parents, and they're like, no, I'm like, trust me. Type in top 25 party schools in the country, and ASU's not even listed. And so I think Dr. Crow has done a phenomenal job of like creating really, really high level programs, because volleyball is an academic sport. Like, there's a lot of high academic level kids in there, and you want to be able to sell them. Like, hey, you can come here and go to Barrow.
all the things here are all the places that they're placing their students, which is a pretty amazing list. Like I remember when I started digging in, I was blown away. It was like they're sending people to UCLA Medical, Harvard Law. You know, it's not like oh yeah, they got their bare degree and they're just going on. Like they're placing people really good, like Rhodes College, all these things, and those things go into your recruiting pitch. You know, it's like hey, if you have a high academic kid, I promise you they can be a top academic performer here and still have an unbelievable outcome. They don't have to go to Stanford, Harvard, wherever. And so those things are important. I thought about all of that stuff when it came to building the program here. And as far as just kind of the success of where we've been, I think one of the things that I learned over my years as an assistant was how important it is to build connectedness in your team. And I think sometimes it gets missed because teams get really connected, but then coaching staffs maybe aren't as connected, especially the head coach, because we have to do things like this. I love practice early, so we get over here on time. And I think the players don't mind if you're doing that as long as you're trying to reach out. Like later today, I'm going to get coffee with one of my kids. And so one of the things, and I talked about this in the recruiting process, that I thought was like vital to building a strong culture was not just being connected with each other as a team, but connected with the staff connected with each other, and then us connected with the community and with the university. And so the first thing I said when I walked in the door, I'm like, hey, I got my ideas on volleyball. I've already run the empire. I know what I want to build. The hardest thing we're going to have to build is our culture. We only have 9 kids, and I still, to this day, I'm grateful for each and every one of them because they helped set the standard of what our culture was. And I told them at the beginning, I go, it's going to be uncomfortable because I'm going to take you guys to lunch or coffee, and the only thing we can't talk about is volleyball. And if that's not what you're going to be about, then this won't be the place for you. Because I think that part is, they have to know, like the coach is like normal, I got kids, I'm a sort of normal dude. And I think, as a head coach, it's really easy to just be that guy over here. And I think that's really hard. And so I think if you're setting that from the top and everyone else is doing that, and then the team does that even within itself, you don't necessarily get the, oh, I'm a senior, I'm not going to talk to the freshmen. Like we're trying to talk to the seniors, like you are mentoring the freshmen. Like you need to have a relationship with the freshmen because you're setting the standard. And that first 9 that I had, my roster was only 9. I only had 5 scholarship kids when I walked in the door. So I had 7 open scholarships. And in volleyball, you can't fill them. Like they commit their sophomore year, right? And so we got a couple transfers, a big one in Mary because she started that year. But the rest were just, hey, we're filling depth where we can. But I thought the cool thing was, we brought in 5 or 6 kids that year, and like the 9 had set the tone, and so those ones came in and just like kept it going. And ever since, because we've had to continue to use the transfer portal until we can start getting some bigger recruiting classes, they've set like what we do, and that's really special. Even this year, like I was at coffee with one of the kids that transferred this year, and she was just like how are things going? It's been, I think it was in the spring. It's been a little while. Like, what are you thinking? And she's like, I'm blown away. Like the team has been. I thought with all the transfers, like there's gonna be drama, there'd be all this stuff. She's like, this is like the most connected group like I've ever been in. And like that's what you want. You want it when they walk out the door. Forget how the volleyball was. Like, how is the team? And are they like 20 years from now like fired up to go see their team and be part of that program? Or are they like, peace out, it was all drama. I don't have 2 friends with me. So I think the players are the ones that really set that and continue to build that for us. It's really special.
Thank you. Aya up front.
Hey coach, it's good to see you once again. It's Aya Abdi for Devils in Detail. I have 2 questions for you. So throughout the season, when it comes to building relationships with the players, especially with Noemi Glover, what have you learned from it? And especially when it comes to the preparation for this year's NCAA tournament, I know the team came short last year. How do you look to continue this approach of getting success day by day?
Yeah, I think the prep for the tournament, I think, started with how we built our non-conference. We built the hardest non-conference schedule I've built since I've been here. So we played Pitt and Penn State, huge crowds right away. We played Texas at their place, which is always a sold-out crowd, hostile environment. And so the idea was, hey, can we get our kids as uncomfortable as possible so that when it comes to tournament time, they've already been around it and they're more comfortable being uncomfortable because it's really hard to replicate the stress of the tournament. So that's kind of that piece of it. We, of course, in practice, we're trying to find ways to put pressure on them. Little things that we try to do to simulate those environments. And then our relationship piece it's connecting. And with Noemi, I think she's really competitive. So one of the best ways to motivate her is to score stuff. Today we were playing a drill, and all she was doing was looking at the whiteboard to see what her score was the whole time. And then you got to have your conversations with them, you know, still get them focused on, hey, here are the things we need you to do. And I think she's been really has impressed me with how competitive she is about improving at what she's trying to get better at, which is not always the case. But she's done a nice job there. I think someone like Coach Niel absolutely sets the bar for that. It's been phenomenal. You know, she was another transfer that's come in, has improved dramatically compared to where she was. And you know, again, that's what you're trying to build.